The wind howled like a beast outside. Snow slammed against the tent walls like fists. Ethan sat near the small heater, his hands shaking from cold and tiredness. He had been alone on Rigo 7 for 4 days now, collecting data for Earth Command. This frozen planet was silent, dead, and full of secrets no one cared to discover. He took a small sip of recycled water and checked his scanner. Nothing. Again, just snow and more snow. He sighed and leaned back, ready to sleep. But then, the scanner beeped. One life form detected. Ethan sat up straight, blinking in shock. That can't be right, he whispered. He zoomed in on the signal. It was weak and closed just outside his tent. He grabbed his coat and a blaster, zipped open the tent flap, and froze. There, crawling through the snow, was a small figure, not human. An alien girl, thin and trembling, her skin a light shade of violet. Her eyes were wide with fear, and her lips were blue from the cold. She collapsed at the edge of his camp. Ethan rushed to her, pulled her into his arms, and dragged her into the tent. The heater struggled to warm the freezing air. He wrapped her in blankets and placed a heat pad near her chest. "You're going to be okay," he said, even though he wasn't sure himself. She looked at him with half-open eyes, shivering hard. Her voice was a soft whisper, strange and beautiful. "Hunted," she said. Before falling unconscious, Ethan stared at her, confused and alert. Who was she, and what was she doing out here alone? Rigo 7 had no known cities, no stations, no life. He checked her body for wounds and found something strange. On her back was a glowing mark like a burn, but shaped like a symbol. It pulsed slowly, matching her weak heartbeat. He'd seen many species before, but never one like this. Her ears were pointed, her hair long and silver. Despite her alien look, she seemed fragile, like a lost child. He looked at the scanner again. No other life forms nearby. But something felt wrong. The way she whispered "hunted" echoed in his mind. Ethan sat beside her and kept his blaster close. Hours passed, and the storm outside grew louder. He kept feeding fuel into the heater, not letting it go out. She finally stirred, her eyes fluttering open. She tried to sit up, but her body was weak. "Stay down," Ethan said gently. "You're safe now." She looked at him, confused, but grateful. Her voice was soft again. "Name?" "Leah." He nodded. "I'm Ethan," he said. "Human." Her eyes widened slightly at the word. Then she looked around. "Where?" "Rigo 7," Ethan replied. "A death world." She shivered. "Not safe." "They come. Always come." "Who?" he asked, but she didn't answer, just closed her eyes again. Her breathing was shallow, her body still weak. Ethan had a choice now. He could call command, report her, follow protocol, but something inside told him not to. Something about the way she looked at him. Like she was more than just a stranger in trouble, like she knew him or needed him for more than just warmth. Outside, the wind screamed louder, but inside the tent, two very different beings shared heat and silence. And deep in the snow, something moved, a faint clicking sound, like claws on ice. Ethan didn't hear it yet, but he would, because the storm on Rigos was only the beginning, and what came next would change everything. The storm had not stopped. Snow still slammed against the thin tent walls like angry waves. Ethan sat beside the alien girl, watching her sleep. Taylor, she had said her name was. She looked peaceful now, but Ethan knew it wouldn't last. He leaned closer, checking her condition. Her breathing was shallow, but steady. The strange glowing mark on her back still pulsed softly. It wasn't a wound. It didn't bleed or swell. It looked like it had been burned into her skin with perfect precision. He reached for his portable med scanner and hovered it over her back. The machine buzzed, then went silent. No known match That's when Ethan realized this wasn't just any alien, she was something special. Maybe something forbidden. Suddenly, Tlea's eyes opened, wide and full of fear. She sat up fast, her hands glowing with a faint silver light. Ethan raised his hands slowly, showing he meant no harm. "You're safe," he said calmly. "No one followed you here." Tile looked around quickly, her body still shaking. Then she touched the mark on her back and winced. "They will come," she whispered. "They always come." "Who are they?" Ethan asked, his voice calm but sharp. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked down at the heater. "Your machine. Too bright. They follow heat, light, movement." Ethan turned off the scanner and dimmed the heater. The tent grew colder in seconds. He pulled another blanket over her. "Rest," he said. "You're safe for now." But even as he said it, he wasn't. Sure, he felt a pressure in his chest, like something was watching from beyond the tent wall. Later, Tlea spoke again, her voice weak but serious. "The mark is not just pain," she said. "It's a signal, a tag." Ethan leaned forward. "Tag? For what?" "To be hunted," she replied. "To be harvested." His stomach turned. Harvested. It wasn't just a word, meant something darker, something cruel. "They find people like you." Ethan asked. "Then what?" "They take us." She set her eyes distant. "They cut out what they want. Burn the rest." Ethan clenched his jaw. He had seen war, but this was worse. This was organized slaughter. She looked at him suddenly, serious. "You have to hide me, human," she said. "If they find me." "They find you? Why me?" he asked, confused. Tlea opened her hand, palm glowing. A small thread of light flowed from her skin. She pointed to his neck, and when Ethan looked into the tent mirror, he saw it, a faint shimmer on his own. "Skin right under his jaw. I touched your blood when you carried me," she whispered. It was enough. Ethan's heart raced. He was marked too, not by a weapon, but by her, by trying to save her. He stood up quickly and zipped the tent. Door closed tighter. Snow was blowing in from the corners. He added more weight to the flaps and turned to her. "All right," he said. "You stay inside. I'll keep watch." Outside, the storm screamed louder. Ethan wiped the frost from the thermal sensor and peered into the white void. It's nothing but snow. Then movement. Just for a second. Something. Black against the white, crawling low, he stared harder. Then it was gone. Too smooth for a beast, too quiet for a man. He stepped back into the tent and grabbed his rifle. "Something's out there," he whispered. Tlea sat up. "Alert seeker," she said, her voice shaking. "If it found us, others will come." Ethan checked the ammo on his pulse rifle. "I've fought worse," he said, trying to sound brave, but deep inside. Fear twisted in his chest. "Seeker." "Doesn't kill," she said. "It marks." Ethan looked at her. "It marks, like you." She nodded slowly. "Worse," she said. "It marks everything. So they can come and collect." He turned off all power heater. Lights, sensors, everything. The tent fell into total darkness. Cold air crept in fast. But they stayed still, silent, and breathing slow. Minutes passed like hours. Then they heard it, a soft click-click-click on the snow. Just outside, Ethan held his breath. He didn't move. Tlea's hand gripped his tightly, her fingers ice cold. Then the clicking stopped. Silence. Then a soft thud, like something being dropped. In front of the tent, the seeker was gone, but it had left something behind. The tent was silent, cold, and heavy with fear. Ethan waited. Staring at the flap where the sound had come from, the alien girl, Tlea, sat beside him, wrapped in a blanket. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark. Watching the same spot, neither of them spoke. The storm still raged outside, but now it felt like a cover. A mask for something else. Something hunting. Ethan slowly reached for his blaster without making a sound. His fingers were stiff from cold, but steady. He unzipped the flap just a few inches. Snow blew in, biting at his face. Then he saw it. A small black object in the snow, round and silent. It blinked once with red light, then stopped. Ethan pulled it inside quickly and zipped the tent shut again. Tleya gasped when she saw it. "A seeker pod," she whispered, pulling back. "Why would it leave that?" Ethan asked, holding it carefully. Tleya shook her head, her face pale. "It's not just a tracker now," she said. "It's a beacon." Ethan stared at the pod. "How long before others come?" he asked. "Minutes, maybe less." She said, "They don't wait once it's marked." Ethan opened the back of the pod and found a tiny blinking core. He pulled out a small wire from his toolkit and jammed it into the beacon. The light stopped blinking. Tleya blinked in surprise. "You shut it down," she said. "Just bought us time." Ethan replied, "Not much, but enough." He stood and moved fast, checking his gear, blaster, emergency flares, heat knife, thermal cloak. He grabbed it all. "Tleya, can you move?" She nodded, though her legs were still shaking. "Good," he said. "We can't stay here." They stepped out into the snow. The storm hit them like a wall. Ice needles stung Ethan's face, and he had to pull his hood tighter. They walked carefully, sticking close to the edge of the cliffs. He knew a cave not far. He had mapped it on his second day. If they made it there, they might survive the next few hours. Suddenly, Tleya grabbed his arm. Her eyes widened, staring into the distance. Ethan turned quickly. At first, he saw nothing but white, then eyes, glowing red and low to the ground. Not one pair, but three, then four, then more. Creatures crawling in the snow. Fast and silent, too smooth, two perfect machines. "Not animals run," Tleya whispered. Ethan didn't argue. They turned and ran, their boots crunching snow. The machines followed, quiet and deadly, weaving through the storm. They reached the cave just in time. Ethan pushed Tleya inside and threw down a flare. The red light filled the entrance. Glowing off the cave walls, the machines stopped at the edge of the light. They didn't move forward, didn't attack, just waited. Tleya leaned against the wall, breathing hard. "They can't enter light directly," she said. "It confuses their vision." Ethan nodded. "Good to know," he said. Setting up more flares in a triangle pattern, the machine circled just outside, watching, never blinking. "What do they want with you?" he asked finally. Tleya was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "I carry something old. Not just blood, not just memories, but a signal from the beginning." Ethan frowned. "Beginning of what?" "Of everything," she said softly. "My kind were created long ago for peace. But when we refused to become weapons, they turned on us." Ethan sat beside her. "And now?" She looked at him, her voice trembling. "They think we're extinct, but I survived." Ethan understood now. She wasn't just a lost alien. She was the last of something powerful. And somehow, by saving her, he had become part of her story. He checked the blaster, then looked out at the machines. Still waiting, patient, cold. "They're not going to leave," he said. "No," she replied. "They never do." Then Ethan smiled. "Just a little, well," he said. "Let's make them wish they had." The machines outside didn't move. They just waited, their glowing red eyes like cold stars in the snow inside the cave. Ethan and Tleya sat near the flickering red flares. The light kept the machines back for now. Ethan checked his pulse blaster again, even though he knew it wouldn't be enough. They needed a plan, but more than that, they needed understanding. Why were these things so determined to capture her? What made Tleya so important? She was sitting with her back to the wall, her face pale, Her hands were glowing slightly, as if something inside her was waking up. "You said you carry something old," Ethan said carefully. She nodded. "Not meeting." His eyes, "My kind was made to remember," she whispered. "We carry memory. But not like you deep memory. Alive memory." Ethan frowned, not understanding. She looked up. Her eyes shining silver now. "I can show you," she said. "But you must let me inside your mind." Ethan hesitated. He had heard of mental links before, but only in stories. This wasn't something humans were built for. But then again, she wasn't like any other alien he'd met, and part of him trusted her more than he should. "All right," he said slowly. "Do it." Tleia crawled over. Kneeling in front of him, she placed both her hands on the sides of his face. Her palms were warm, and then everything changed. The cave vanished. The cold was gone. Ethan stood in a world of light and color. Floating in a vast sky, memories poured into him like a river, fast and endless. He saw her world before the war. Green skies, crystal towers, laughter in the wind. Her people sang through the stars, connecting minds across galaxies. Then came the others' machines, without faces, built by ancient empires to find and steal knowledge. They marked her kind, took the ones who remembered the most, and burned the rest. Tleia was a child then, hiding in the ruins with her mother. He saw it all through her eyes, the fire, the silence afterward. And then he saw something else, an image buried deep, wrapped in golden light, a human face, older, wiser, smiling gently. "This one," a voice echoed, "will change the end." Ethan gasped, pulling back. He was back in the cave, heart racing, breath shaky. Tleia was beside him, her eyes now dim. "You saw?" she asked. He nodded, still shaking. "Yeah. I saw everything. You're not just hunted," he said slowly. "You're chosen." She nodded weakly. "Yes, and now so are you." Ethan stood up, pacing the cave. He now understood what they were facing. These machines weren't just bounty hunters, they were collectors of ancient power. And Tleia was one of the last sources of that power by helping her. He had stepped into something far bigger than himself. Outside, the machines moved, just slightly but enough to send a warning. Time was running out. Tleia looked up at Ethan. "There's more," she said. "You carry something too." Ethan froze. "What?" "You don't know it, but your kind humans were once part of us. Split, long ago," she whispered, "before memory faded. But your blood still hears the call." Ethan couldn't believe it. "Are you saying humans and your people are related?" "In the beginning, yes," she said. "That's why you can link with me. That's why you're not dead from the connection." Ethan rubbed his face, trying to process it all. This wasn't just a survival mission anymore. This was the beginning of something new, something old, returning. He looked at the machines outside. If they captured Tleia, they would destroy the last living key to that ancient truth. "We have to stop them," he said firmly. Tleia nodded. "There's a place, a beacon site nearby. If we reach it, I can call help." "Old help, old help?" Ethan asked. She nodded. "Older than Earth Command, older than war." Ethan picked up his gear again. "Then we move at dawn," he said. Tleia smiled softly. "If we survive the night," she whispered. Outside, in the snow, the machines waited. But now, one of them turned away. It had seen something in the mental link, a light, a warning. The past was awakening, and the human had touched it. The cave walls trembled with wind as night passed slowly. Ethan didn't sleep. He sat beside the last flare, watching the entrance. The machines were still out there, patient, silent, deadly. But they didn't come in. Not yet. Tleia lay wrapped in thermal blankets, her breathing soft. She had used too much energy during the memory transfer. Her skin glowed gently now, like soft moonlight. Ethan checked his weapon one last time. They would have to move soon, before the light died completely, but just before dawn, something changed. Leia gasped in her sleep. Her body stiffened. Then her glowing hand touched her chest hand. A small pulse of light spread across her body. Ethan jumped to her side. "Tleia," he said, shaking her gently. Her eyes opened, but they were not the same. They glowed gold now, not silver. Her voice was layered like many voices speaking through her at once. "It is time," she said. "The bond is complete." "What bond?" Ethan asked, confused and worried. Tleia reached up and touched his neck where the shimmer had first appeared. It glowed again, brighter this time. "You gave me your warmth," she said, "and now your blood has awakened my core." Before Ethan could speak, her hands lit with energy, pure, bright, and humming. She floated a few inches above the ground, her feet no longer touching the stone. The blankets fell away, revealing markings across her arms that hadn't been there before. Symbols, ancient and glowing, moved like fire beneath her skin. Ethan stepped back, half in awe, half in fear. "What's happening to you?" "I am becoming what my ancestors sealed away," she said. "My gift was locked until a human touched it." Ethan felt a strange vibration in the air. The machines outside must have sensed it to be, 'cause they moved, not cautiously like before. Fast, urgent, angry. A loud shriek filled the air as one of them slammed into the cave barrier. Red sparks burst from its face as the flare resisted the attack. "They're coming," Ethan said, raising his blaster. Tleia stood now, her eyes glowing brighter than ever. "No," she said calmly. "We are going," with a wave of her hand. The flare lights surged outward in a circle. The machines outside were thrown back as if hit by a shockwave. Snow exploded around them, and the path cleared. Ethan stared. Speechless. "Did you just?" "Yes," she replied, stepping past him toward the entrance. "I remember now how to fight." Ethan followed her into the white storm. They moved fast across the icy fields. Tleia walked like the wind itself moved with her. The machines regrouped quickly and gave chase. Ethan fired behind him, hitting one square in the chest. It exploded into parts, but more kept coming. Tleia raised both hands. Her fingers curled like she was gripping invisible threads. She pulled, and the ground itself cracked. Ice shot upward, forming a wall behind them. Ethan looked back in disbelief. "You weren't kidding about the gift?" he muttered. Tleia didn't smile. "There's more," she said. "But it costs energy." "How far to the beacon?" he asked. "Not far," she said, pointing toward a sharp ridge in the distance. "It lies under the Arch of Tears." They kept running, the wind cutting into their faces as they climbed the ridge. Ethan stumbled. A claw from a chasing drone had slashed his leg. Blood soaked his suit fast. He dropped to his knee, trying to get up. Tleia turned, her face full of panic. She rushed back to him, knelt beside him. "You can't die," she said. "Not now." She tore the fabric open and placed her glowing hand on his wound. Ethan yelled as heat surged through his skin, but the bleeding stopped. The skin closed, and the pain faded. He looked at her, eyes wide. "You healed me. Your blood healed me," she whispered. "Now I return it." Ethan stood up slowly, amazed. Then he looked up. They had reached the Arch of Tears. A massive curved stone with strange writing carved deep into it. Beneath it lay a metal platform, buried half in snow. Tleia ran to it and knelt. Placing her hands on the surface, the ground rumbled. The platform lit up with blue rings, slowly rising. A sound filled the air like a bell ringing through the stars. The machines stopped, confused. Then they began to fall back, one by one. They turned and vanished into the storm. Ethan watched as Tleia's body lowered to the ground. She looked tired, her light dimmer. "What did you do?" He asked. I called the old ones, she said softly, and they heard me. Asterisk snow roared like thunder across the ridge. The Arch of Tears stood tall behind them, glowing with old light. Clea sat quietly on the cold platform, her breath slow, her energy fading. Ethan stood guard with his pulse blaster raised. The machines had pulled back, but not for long. They weren't retreating. They were waiting. Talia, Ethan said over the wind, "Are you okay?" She opened her eyes slowly. "The call was sent," she said. "But the response will take time." "How much time?" he asked, scanning the snow ahead. "Too long," she whispered. "We have to survive until they arrive." Atini nodded, setting up defensive gear. He planted flares in a circle around them, then set his rifle on burst mode. He had one energy cell left, maybe two if he stretched it. His heart pounded, but he stayed calm. Then, out of the storm, the machines returned, not just a few dozen. Walking, crawling, flying low, forming a wide ring around the platform. Their eyes blinked red in the whiteout. They didn't rush this time. They were calculating. Waiting for the right moment to strike, Ethan tightened his grip on the blaster. "I don't suppose your powers are back yet?" he asked. Talia stood slowly, her legs shaking. "I will fight," she said softly, "even if it ends me." The first drone leaped forward fast and sharp. Ethan fired 3 times, and it exploded mid-air. Metal parts scattered across the snow, but 5 more charged in right after it. Talia raised her hand and pushed forward with all her might. A burst of wind and light hit the attackers, sending them flying back. But she cried out and dropped to her knees. "I can't do that again," she said. "I'm nearly empty." Ethan stood over her, firing shot after shot. The machine circled. Flanking from the sides, he dropped 2 more, but one reached his shoulder and slashed deep. Blood soaked his suit again. He fell, growling in pain, but still pulled the trigger. He wasn't going to let them take her, not while he could still breathe. Suddenly, the ground shook beneath them. A deep rumble echoed through the snow. At first, Ethan thought it was a quake, but then he saw it. New figure appeared through the storm. It was huge, 4 times taller than the drones. Black armor, blue glowing core in its chest. It walked like a god of death, the final seeker. Talia's eyes widened in fear. "They sent a war form," she whispered. "They really want me gone." Ethan tried to stand, his blaster now low on charge. "We've got no chance against that," he muttered. Talia crawled to him and touched his face. "There is one way," she said. "You must touch the core." "What?" he shouted over the wind. "It only breaks when touched by someone." "Linked to the first ones," she said. "That's you now, Ethan." Ethan stared at her, then at the warform. Its heavy steps shook the snow as it approached. Laser cannons glowed on its arms. It raised both hands, preparing to fire. Ethan gritted his teeth. He stood tall, despite the pain. He dropped the empty blaster and pulled out the last flare. "Cover me," he said. Talia nodded and stood one last time. She raised her hands, not with strength, but with will. A wave of force exploded from her, pushing the small drones back. But it wouldn't stop the warform. Ethan ran straight at the giant machine, snow whipping at his face, blood running down his arm. The warform aimed at him. Fired, but Ethan dove through the blast, rolling hard. The heat burned his side, but didn't stop him. He reached the base of the machine, climbed its leg using jagged edges like a ladder. The warform tried to shake him off. Ethan held on, climbing higher, toward the glowing chest. Then, with one deep breath, he jumped forward and slammed his palm against the core. The glow stopped. Then a blinding flash burst from the machine. The warform froze, then cracked open from the middle. Blue light poured out, and the massive machine collapsed like a mountain falling. Ethan hit the snow hard, unconscious. Talia screamed and ran to him. She pulled him into her arms, crying. His heart was still beating, but barely. Then, above them, the clouds parted. A new ship appeared in the sky, enchant, glowing and shaped like a silver wing. The old ones had arrived. The storm had ended. The sky above Rigo 7 was calm for the first time in days. Soft light broke through the clouds, painting the snow in pale gold. Tlea sat on her knees, holding Ethan's body close. He was alive, but barely. His skin was cold, his breath shallow. Blood covered the snow around him. She pressed her forehead to his and whispered a soft song in her ancient tongue. It was a call not just to the sky but to the ones who had finally come. Above them, the silver-winged ship descended without sound. It hovered in the air, glowing with a soft blue light. Then it released a beam that formed a platform on the ground. 3 figures stepped out, tall and shining. They looked like light itself, shaped into people. Tlea looked up with tears in her eyes. She stood slowly, her legs shaking. "You came," she said, voice trembling. The leading figure stepped forward and placed a glowing hand over Ethan's body. "This one is not of us," the being said. "But he carries the mark of the beginning." The being knelt and touched Ethan's wound. Golden light flowed through his body, closing every cut. His breathing calmed, then deepened. He opened his eyes slowly and saw her face. "Did we win?" he asked weakly. Tlea laughed softly, her tears falling. "Yes," she said. "We survived." Ethan sat up slowly with her help. He looked around and saw the broken remains of machines scattered across the snow. The massive warform lay split in two like a crushed mountain, and then he saw the visitors, beings of light, watching him silently. "Who are they?" he whispered. Tlea looked at them with respect. "They are the keepers," she said, "the last guardians of the first code." One of the keepers spoke again. "You touched her light and survived. It said, you opened the path again." Ethan didn't understand, but he nodded anyway. The keeper turned to Tlea. "Your gift is awakened," it said, "but now you must decide. Will you return with us, or stay with this one?" Leia looked at Ethan, her eyes soft. "I was alone for so long," she whispered. "I was hunted, feared, left behind. But he offered me warmth when I had nothing." She turned to the keepers. "I choose to stay." The keepers nodded slowly. "Then your bond is complete," they said. "The new cycle begins, with both your kinds." Ethan stood fully now. Still sore, but stronger. He looked at the sky. "So what happens now?" The keepers raised their hands. The sky above shimmered like glass. Then it cleared, revealing distant stars, hundreds of worlds glowing beyond. "The galaxy has forgotten who you are," the keeper said, "but soon they will remember." With that, the silver-winged ship rose back into the sky. It vanished without sound, leaving no trace behind, only silence, peace, and a new light in the air. Tlea turned to Ethan. "We can't go back to being just survivors," she said. "We are something more now." He smiled tiredly. "Well, I was never just a soldier," he said. "Guess I'll be something else." Together, they walked down from the Arch of Tears. The machines were gone. The snow was quiet. They passed the wreckage of the warform, its broken core still glowing faintly. A symbol was carved into its chest, one Ethan had seen in her memories. The mark of the beginning. They set up a new camp nearby. This time, not just for shelter, but as a signal to others. A place of safety, of history, of truth. Tlea began building a beacon using both their technologies. Ethan sent a signal to Earth's command. A short message: "Found something ancient." And we're not alone. Days passed, and the snow began to melt. Small plants peeked through the white. Bird-like creatures flew overhead. Life was returning to Riga 7, and so were others. Ships landed quietly in the distance, explorers, refugees. Allies, they had heard the call, and they came. Ethan and Tlea stood at the edge of their camp, watching the horizon. "What do we call this place?" he asked. She smiled. "New Light," she said. "And you, Ethan, are its first protector." He looked out at the stars above, a human and an alien. Once strangers in the cold, now standing side by side at the beginning of a new chapter, not just for them, but for the galaxy